Brew an entire pot of coffee, order a pizza, tacos, or better yet, both. Brush up on your pop culture references, and let's spend April in Stars Hollow with Lorelai and Rory. Hey y'all, welcome back to Dots and Beyond. If you are new here, my name is Beth and this is Diana. She is my personal journal for 2021, named after Wonder Woman. And this theme I am doing this month was absolutely not in the cards. I've had a very difficult couple of months and just didn't have the time or energy to sketch anything out this month, and so I have gone the route of printables. I also was not planning to do the Gilmore Girls for my Fictional series that I'm doing here in 2021. They definitely don't fall into the same category as the superheroes or movie characters, television characters that I have done thus far. But sometimes you just have to get a little real and show some characters that are a little more normal like us, flaws and all. And so I've done these printables. Some of them are on sticker paper. Some of them are just on regular paper, and I'll use the strip glue to stick those down, and we are going to just do this as simply as possible. The other thing I'm going to do this, I'm going to set up the whole month, which you guys haven't seen me do yet. I just need to get it knocked out of the way. Like I said, things have been a little difficult, so I am going to set up everything from the beginning of the month all the way through to my review page so that it is done and I don't have to worry about this in April. As you can see, I got a little bit of a head start with this one printable page, and that is because I am doing this month in a scrapbook style. I do normally prefer my setups in a little more structured of a style, but we are just going to go with the flow and see how this turns out. I do use Photoshop to lay out and customize the different things that I want to use in a journal if I'm going to go the printable route. I did this in February for my business bullet journal where I highlighted Valentine's themes from Star Wars. I'll link that up in the cards if you want to go back and check that out. But sometimes life just gets away from you and you need to be able to do things a little more quickly. This does still take some time to set up, especially because I don't have much of a plan beyond what pages I want and then what I want my weeklies to look like. So I did kind of plan those out in that process. The other big difference for me in doing the scrapbook style is that there's so much color, and normally I do sort of a black and white monochromatic with one highlight color, maybe two highlight colors, but I definitely don't go full throttle on the color in my normal journaling. For this April splash page, I'm really just making it all about the town of Stars Hollow and getting some iconic images put in here. Next up is my calendar page. Normally I do a linear calendar. I did do a full calendar in my business journal this past month, and it actually worked pretty well for me, so we're going to try it here in my personal journal as well. Plus I think it just fits in with the scrapbook theme a little bit better. Here I am sketching out that calendar. I do start my weeks on Monday, not Sunday, and then I choose to put my weeklies in whichever month has the most days in that week. So for April of 2021, that is going to give me 5 weeks because there's 4 days in the first week of April and 5 days in the last week of April. As for decoration, I really didn't have much of a plan. Here I am cutting off a strip to put off on the right page. That little cutting mat I did pick up at the Dollar Tree for just $1. And it is the perfect size when I am working on my journal. Here, you're going to see me trimming a lot of corners, and I'm not really great at it. Let me just tell you that up front, but when you do this sort of a style, you end up with little extras hanging off, and you do have to have scissors nearby to get those trimmed up. A little bit about the Gilmore Girls, if you happen to have not watched this show. It does take place in Stars Hollow, Connecticut. With a single mom and her daughter and their relationship with other women and men in their lives. I came into the Gilmore Girls party fairly late. It had already aired and was off of normal television before I ever decided to watch it. I just didn't think it was going to be something that I was going to relate to, and I was terribly wrong. It is quick-witted, fast-paced, and sassy, and for some reason I always get the urge to go back and start watching it in the spring, which is why this may have popped up as an idea for my April spreads when I was really struggling creatively with how I wanted to move forward this month and not having a whole lot of time to plan and get this set up. In addition to the printables, I am adding some washi tape in strategic locations to just help fill in that scrapbook feel. I will go ahead and link this washi tape as well as the label sticker paper I use and all of the other supplies that are being used in this setup in the description box below. I am about to switch out my container of Crayola Super Tips for this set of Amazon Basics dual brush pens. I picked these up after watching a review on YouTube from an artist, and I don't remember who that was. If I can remember before this goes live, I'll definitely link her review in the description box below as well, but they are great, and I do love the way that they write. They are pretty close to a Tombow dual brush pen if you do not want to invest in a full Tombow set. And like I said, I have abandoned the predominant black and white spreads for this color, adding in some blue headers for the days of the week. And then these yellow dots will be for me to put in the actual date on each day of the month. I am also not the neatest of journalers. As this progresses, you'll start to see things around me sort of gather as I find the things that I need to move forward. For the calendar, I selected a photograph of the Stars Hollow gazebo to highlight on this page. It's one of those locations where so many pivotal moments of the show do take place. The changing of seasons features heavily in Gilmore Girls, and that gazebo is the key to what season it is. You can always tell how it's decked out as to what season the show is currently in. And again, maybe since we're currently in the changing of a season is why I felt compelled to move forward with this spread. I am adding in the days of the week headers as a final touch, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next spread. If you are a fan of the Gilmore Girls, let me know in the comments below which of the seasons you like best in their portrayals. Is it winter, spring, summer, or fall? And I will let you know mine later in the video. Alright, next up are my creative tracking spread and my challenge spread. Now my creative tracking spread has gotten much smaller over the last 2 or 3 months. I'm really not using it all that much. I do track most of my creative endeavors in Notion, and this is not sponsored by Notion in any way. I just find it much better to track my video production, Instagram posts, and that sort of thing in Notion. So I am paring this back just to a very quick calendar for me to mark my content, as well as a tracker just to see where my followers are at the beginning of the month and the end of the month. Basically, the content calendar just lets me eyeball days that I posted various content. I use a play button for video content, part of the Instagram icon for Instagram content, a musical note for a Spotify playlist if it's new published that day, and a writing quill for a blog post. This style of mini calendar I did pick up from Jess of Joshi Corinne, and I will link her channel down below so you can check out her content as well. Up at the top, I do write in what my themes for the month are going to be. Obviously, my theme in my personal journal is Gilmore Girls. I do keep a business journal. Here on this spread, I have written in Stargate. I have already come back and changed that, again with my creative struggles, and I have flipped that back to Battlestar Galactica for April. So tune in next week if you want to see what my work journal setup looks like with a Battlestar Galactica theme. Here on the right, I am putting in that key I discussed earlier for my content calendar, the play button, the Instagram logo, the note, and the quill. Moving on to the right side of the page to lay down the non-scrapbook elements. This is going to be my challenge calendar for the month of April. I have been doing a different challenge every month in 2021. Last month was 31 days of mindfulness. with Niall Breslin of the Where Is My Mind podcast that he did back in January. I just decided to revisit it in March and pick it back up. In January, I did a home cleaning reboot with apartment therapy, and I just kind of decide what challenge I'm going to do based on my mood for that month. I have not yet selected what that challenge will be for April of 2021, but if you will follow me down on Instagram, I'll definitely post pictures of that page when it gets filled in. Normally, I also do a full calendar size page for the challenge, and this time I have gone to a linear page just to make it out as a list as opposed to writing it in on a calendar once I do decide what that challenge is going to be for each day. And now it is time to scrapbook up this page. The dot glue roller that I am using is the one from Tombow. I picked up mine at Michael's. It's also available on Amazon. That's where I get my refills. They do come in a 3-pack, and I keep these stocked all of the time. So every time you see that hot pink roller come in, you know that's my glue dot roller. And again, it is a Tombow, and I'll link that in the description box with the rest of the supplies. What I am discovering as I go along through this setup is that I kind of enjoy just having the creative freedom to put things where I feel like putting them at that moment. Obviously, you can tell I had printed out some headers for myself and some stickers and some specific photographs, but until I started doing this setup, I really hadn't planned out where everything was going to go. You can't talk about the Gilmore Girls without talking about the Gilmore guys that are involved with the Gilmore Girls, and there are lots of them throughout the show. I am putting in here a photograph of Luke and Lorelai, as well as one of Jess and Rory. And of course, Rory, we see her go through her first boyfriend at the age of 16, all the way through being an adult in her 30s, and who she may or may not end up with. I have very definitive thoughts about where that goes, but I will always, in my heart, be Team Jess. Through all the ups and downs and various moods, I do believe in intellectual matches, and Jess is definitely the intellectual match for Rory. And then, of course, Luke and Lorelai have always belonged together, and everybody knows it, and it is without question. I don't have a whole lot of space over here on the right for the challenge page, so I am just going to put a little bit of that printed paper up the side with the various Stars Hollow icons on it, and then put the label up here, add a little bit of washi tape, and then it'll be done. If that top right corner is bugging you, know that it's bugging me too. I just don't quite know what to do with it yet, and I do come along and fix that before the final flip through. Next up is my mental health spread, and normally I do a mood tracker in a very creative fashion like this one from January, but I need to track more than a single mood right now. So if you watch my last video, I did reveal in that video that I do live with bipolar disorder, and this is a much more detailed mental health / mood tracker that I did in that video. I will link it up in the cards for you below if you're interested on how this is set up. But essentially, I have a median line or an equals, and then I have a -1, -2, -3 for when things are not going very well, and a +1, +2, +3 for how a particular mood or feeling goes one way or the other. And then I track with that depressed, irritated, anxious, and elevated. Those are the 4 moods that I personally track. They may be different for someone else. And then I do have different colored dots to put on a day if there is a specific trigger as to why I am feeling that way. So sometimes that trigger might be a lack of sleep, or it could be a change in my meds. It can be any number of things, but there's a list there that I track personally just to see what's affecting me on any given day. And then, of course, I am doing a circle tracker here at the top, much like a habit tracker, except this one is going to be specific to activities. I do show in that same video linked up in the cards with my mental health spreads how to set up this circle tracker. For this particular one, the 4 things I'm tracking are home care, self-care, socializing, and work. I do more work from home now than I used to do in the past, and so I want to make sure I'm staying on top of that. But it's just if I know any of those things are falling off, then I might be falling into a depression. It's just all geared around my mental health and being bipolar and needing to stay on top of all of those things. And since Lorelai and Lori are so expressive, I did a collage of their various faces to put here on my mental health / mood tracker. Equally important to tracking my mental health is tracking my wellness. They go hand in hand. This spread stays pretty much the same throughout my bullet journals. You've seen it before if you've been watching my videos. The one on the left is going to track my sleep, and not necessarily just the hours that I sleep, but the quality of my sleep as well as my blood pressure. And those things are definitely linked. And then on the right, I do have my habit trackers, which I have pared down a little bit because I've not been filling them out. So I have my morning meds, low carb, low sugar, exercise, my evening meds, and then read, write, and create. And those are the things that I am tracking for April 2021. For the sleep tracker, I do put the days of the month down the left side and then the hours of sleep along the bottom. And I do fill this out in conjunction with the Sleep Cycle app, which I would highly recommend. For the scrapbook-like elements on this page, I decided to highlight Lorelai and her love for coffee. I grew up in Kenya where they grow coffee, and it is one of my very favorite things and definitely a part of my wellness routine. This next spread may be my very last attempt at a meal tracker. So I set up a spread like this for both January and February. For March, I moved my meal trackers onto my weekly spreads, and it turns out I don't fill in my meals either way. I don't know what sort of mental block I have on being able to fill in habit trackers or a sleep tracker, but I won't come back in and actually write down what my meals were for the day. So we're going to try it at least one more time. And what I do is put the days of the month down the left side. I have a column for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. And then I also have a square next to each day and each category for me to track or rate the wellness of that particular meal or snack. So off on the right, I'll use a little color code. The boxes are already there where it says best, good, poor, and WTF to track what I'm eating on each particular day. And like I said, I have been using it very haphazardly, not utilizing it as much as I need to. So we'll see if I keep it for another month or if I decide to let it go and save space in my book since I've not been using it. And obviously I could not set up a meal tracker without memorializing the atrocious diet that is the diet of the Gilmore girls and their ability to eat unending amounts of junk food and never gain a pound. Not only do they have the worst dietary habits on television, they're eating constantly. In almost every scene, somewhere there's food. They're either in Luke's diner where there is food, they're at their kitchen table where there is food, they're on the sofa with a box of pizza. There is just always food in this show. I did decide I needed to anchor this page with a little bit of color to balance out the top. So I'll put another strip of washi tape here across the bottom, and then we will move on to the next page. I also need to get in my meal rating color code before we move on. For the 5 weeklies, I have chosen 5 of my favorite bizarre Stars Hollow events. And for this first week, it's going to be the Spring Fling Hay Bale maze that they do, and I just figured I would start with a spring event and commemorate that here in the first week of April. I really thought about doing the 4 seasons since the seasons, as I spoke of earlier, feature so heavily in this show, but with 5 weeks I couldn't figure out what to do with the 5th, and so we just decided to go ahead and do some of our favorite events. And again, I did not plan this out. I am winging it, trying to make sure I have enough space This is another radical change for me to just have space to write within each day. What I do normally do is have a little space for each day, but then I have a larger space for a rolling task list, and I have done away with that in April, so we are going to see how that works for me. I think I did this last October or September, and it didn't work that great, but I am using my task list obviously more in my work journal and less in my personal journal, so we're going to give it a go. For the second week of April, I am commemorating the Festival of Living Art, which is a hysterical episode, if you've not seen it, where the people of Stars Hollow dress up and portray famous paintings and sculptures. And of course, here I went with a Van Gogh sort of wallpapery theme for my scrapbook elements and those yellow colors. I also did Photoshop together a little poster, so to speak, for each one of the events so that there was no question as to what event I was celebrating in that particular week. If you haven't noticed, it's a good thing that these videos are sped up at least a little bit. I am terrible at actually getting the backing off of the sticker paper unless it actually falls on a pre-perforated section of the sticker paper where I can bend it and it easily pops off. And so this sort of spares you having to watch me try to peel those things off on multiple occasions. And watching this back to do the voiceover, I'm looking at those 7 spots for the 7 days of the week and thinking, is that enough space? What have I done? Where is my task list? But we will see how it goes through the month. Next up is April 12th through 18th, and I struggled to find a pen that would write on this sticker paper before finding the right one. And this is one of the most iconic Gilmore Girls episodes ever. It is the 24-hour dance-a-thon. There is a whole lot that happens in this episode, but it is absolutely delightful. It has that red, white, and blue sort of 4th of July feel to it, so that's the paper that I chose for my scrapbook feeling, as well as some dancing shoes, and of course the poster that I made to commemorate the event. I can tell you that for a number of years I did live in small town USA, and our town was nowhere near as interesting or had as many festivals or bizarre events as Stars Hollow. What I'm using right now is a Helix circle maker, and if you have not seen one of these before, it is just a gem when it comes to doing circles and angles in the bullet journal. I'll link it with the rest of the supplies below. You've seen me use it on several of the spreads for this month. I keep it underneath a jar of pens on my desk, so it's not even tucked away in a drawer. It's just always available for me to reach and grab when I need to. Next up is the crazy bid on a basket fundraiser for April 19th through the 25th. This is one of those events where everything just goes wrong or goes right, depending on how you want to watch the episode. But the ladies of Stars Hollow put together these picnic baskets that are then bid on for charity. And of course, Lorelai has a basket that no human should consume. And I put a picture of Luke and Lorelai here at the bottom, and he says this, I have to eat it. Because it is known that nobody wants to get Lorelai's basket. Instead of scissors here, I did try to trim off that excess paper with a cutting mat and X-Acto knife. It did not work as well as I had hoped, and I did have to go back to the scissors, but cutting off those little pieces is probably the one part of this scrapbooking procedure that I don't particularly care for. Here I discovered that this salmon colored super tip I obviously used in conjunction with a darker colored marker at some point, and I'm getting black streaks in it. But we carry on. I could have covered it up with a solid black marker, but it needed cleaning off, and of course by the time I get to that last day, it is looking like its normal salmon colored self again. Previously, I asked you to leave me a comment in the description box on your favorite season portrayal within the Gilmore Girls, and I have to say that my favorite season portrayal is winter, which is hysterical because I hate winter. Having grown up on the equator, I don't particularly like living in the northern hemisphere. Snow is not my friend. I do think that Stars Hollow is a magical place in the wintertime, and so I chose the Winter Carnival as my theme set up for the last week of April. I am also loving this paler color palette, which is also not my normal tastes, that I pulled from a photograph that I'll put here in just a minute. That is Rory and Lorelai in the winter during the revival, the second part of the Gilmore Girls that came out a few years ago. Light blue and pale pink are just not colors that I normally gravitate to, but I do love the way they turned out on this page. For this week, I did forego the circle headers for the days of the week and just came along and highlighted a section. To do that, obviously I do end up with one tinier day because I wasn't measuring. Again, I was just laying this out as the mood carried me. And so that's how this page turned out, and we'll again see how this goes for me and if I like that particular type of setup. Every month I do a playlist spread, and so this is me trying to figure out where I want to put this record paper for the playlist. And of course this is where I do get in Rory's best friend Lane and her band. I did have to include a photograph that has Sebastian Bach, the original lead singer of Skid Row, in here. I do come from the hair band era, and so one of my favorite parts of the Gilmore Girls is when he does start to show up as a recurring character. And then on the right is my inbox page, which is my brain dump. Again, I just don't like the phrase brain dump, and somebody else used inbox. And then of course I had to get some photograph of Emily on the page, and that's where I decided to put Emily Gilmore was on that inbox page. And here we are setting up the last page, which will be my review page. Obviously I will not fill this in until the end of the month, but this does focus around Rory. If you have watched the revival of the show, A Year in a Life, that picture there at the bottom right I'm about to stick in of Lorelai and Rory is the very last scene of that revival. So I am putting in Rory, and I know I mentioned earlier that I am Team Jess, but this is where Logan is going to make his appearance, one of Rory's many boyfriends, on this page, because I think in real life Logan is the person that Rory would end up with, and I felt like I just needed to give him his own moment. Okay, y'all, that is it, and it is time for the flip through. Again, my fierce fictional females for April 2021 are the Gilmore Girls. If you have not gone back and watched my previous setup videos, January was Okoye from Black Panther, February was Lorraine of Atomic Blonde, and March I did Daenerys of Game of Thrones. You can follow the Fierce Fictional Female hashtag on Instagram to see the posts from those months, and then you can of course find me at Dots and Beyond on Instagram as well. I would love to have more of you join this Fierce Fictional Female journey and do spreads of your own favorite characters. Feel free to tag me in those on Instagram if you do decide to do that. I'd love to see what you come up with. And of course, I would love it if you would take a moment and click that subscribe button down below and help me grow this little family here on YouTube. I do love meeting other people in this bullet journal community and being inspired by you. As fun as this Fierce Fictional Female series is for me, it is definitely the real women in the world from whom I draw inspiration and strength. After watching this video, do you think I'm going to use this meal tracker? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're commenting, please let me know if you're a fan of the Gilmore Girls and if you have watched every episode and what your favorite crazy Stars Hollow event is. There are so many to choose from, so many more than the 5 that I have highlighted here, and each one of them has their own unique personality. Lorelai, Rory, Emily, Sookie, Lane, and all of the other women of Stars Hollow may not be superheroes, but they are still fierce nonetheless. Fierce and flawed simultaneously, and that is a beautiful thing, and it was fun for me to go back and visit Stars Hollow for the month of April. I have a lot of fan playlists, and I will definitely have a Gilmore Girls playlist up on my Spotify by the end of April, and I'll have that linked for you below. And so now I am fully set up for the month of April in my personal journal. Don't have to go back and revisit it at any time during the month from whenever and wherever you are watching this. Thanks so much for stopping by Dots and Beyond. Remember that you too are fierce. Bye-bye.